everybody. Welcome to Tuesdays with Grace. I'm really excited to introduce to you our very special guest. Her name is Nicole Wakely. She owns a shop called Sadie's Quilt Shop, and she's from New York. And she has turned her love and her passion of quilting into a business. So I'm really excited to introduce her to you today. So welcome, Nicole. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Hey, real quickly, why don't you introduce yourself and how you got started into quilting?
Okay. I am Nicole. I started quilting about 12 years ago when I was card making all the time, and the company started making fabric that matched all their stamps. And so I had to learn everything about quilting, including buying a sewing machine because the one I was borrowing from a neighbor just didn't make sense. So I learned all by myself, trying to make up all these things. I went to box stores, learned how to get fabric, and then wasn't in love with that. So I started engrossing myself in a fabric shop that was locally owned to me so that I could learn everything I could about it. I started taking beginner classes, learned all these tips and tricks, and started just really in everything I did was about the quilting and the sewing. So I started learning everything I could. Then I started teaching classes because my love was making bags. So I started being a bag maker. And over time, I started teaching classes, bags, you name it. And in that time frame, I started learning the business of quilting from the shop owner that I was working for. So I started learning all of that and never got into long arming or anything like that because I didn't have time to learn any of that at the time. The local quilt shop that I was at had changed ownership. So I started stepping away from that one. And I decided that I wanted to start long arming, working on T-shirt quilts for other customers and other people, and just really starting my own side of the business.
Okay, and so T-shirt quilts are really kind of your specialty because you've really taken that and you work with customers. They send you their T-shirts and then you make them into a quilt. Is that how you do it?
Yep. So I get customers bring in their T-shirts so that I can make their stuff up. Now I have a couple of people who help me out doing them because I don't have enough time.
That's nice.
Because I am always on the long arm machine or running the business or running the store. Actually, just T-shirt quilts are not something that I can do all the time, but it was a great start for my business because it got more people into it, and people will pay for T-shirt quilts.
Yeah, and they really do like the T-shirt quilts because they're very sentimental to them. And so it's just taking a part of them and their little journey through life, and you're turning it into a beautiful thing for them to remember and cherish. Who has inspired you in your quilting journey? What one person or maybe a couple of people really inspired you?
My grandmother was a knitter, which is where the name Sadie came from.
Nice.
And so the store was built on my grandmother's philosophy of we can do anything we want to do.
Good for her.
She was a pattern designer for herself in knitting. And so I am also a pattern designer on the quilting side of things. I love designing. I can come up with ideas in my head. There's just not enough time in the day.
Amen, sister.
Actually, to get things done. So making samples is like, how am I going to get those done? So what I found is that originally when I opened the studio was supposed to be a design space for me, but quilters talked and talked and talked. And so I've grown 3 times the size in 15 months.
Wow. Kudos. And that is awesome. So what important things have you learned from growing your business? Customer's really important.
Customer service. If you don't walk in the door and I don't say hi, or one of the ladies who helps me out around here doesn't say hi, we have a problem today.
That's so
everybody
important.
Gets greeted with a smile. Everybody gets greeted with hello, how are you today? I hope you're doing great.
And that enthusiasm just rubs off because they're excited to be there, and it's felt that they're wanted there in your store. Thank you for sharing that. I feel like that's what we're missing in the world a lot of. We're kind of nitpicky and we get very critical, and it's just so nice to have a welcoming stance about us and to just enjoy that time being there and feeling like we are wanted. And
Yes.
that's really important. Tell us a little bit about your shop and your business.
When I started, I was in my basement quilting for other
Yes,
people.
a
Actually,
home
it was in
quilter,
my
yeah.
the long arming was in my mother-in-law's basement. My sewing machine was at my house, and my fabric was at my house. So I was back and forth between two houses. And I finally said, that's it, I can't do this anymore. I need a place that I could get away from my house and away from her house. And so I opened up the studio last May. Last October, I started getting calls from people about the fact that I quilted on a Grace Unique machine.
Mm-hmm.
And so that caused me to call and ask if I could be a rep and start distributing for you guys. And it has been the best thing that I have ever done in this business. I don't think I would be able to have opened up the new store in the size and the space that I have without the add-on of the Grace machines and the Grace family that I feel like I'm part of.
Yes, you are absolutely an important part of the family, and that's why we're on with you today, because you are such an important part. Our dealers are very important to us as a business, as well as our customers. It's just invaluable what you bring to the table, and having customers come in and talk to you one-on-one. You're the Grace rep outside of the Grace company, and that's
Right.
really important to us. How do you inspire those people that come into your store and online? Because you have a great little online website as well.
Well, I feel like everybody who comes in gets to know me, and I am
Good.
very open with the conversations that I have with everybody. If you have a question, there's no dumb question. Please
No.
feel free to talk to me. If you don't like something that I've said, please let me know so that I can fix it for you and anybody else who comes in the door. I'm very open with all of my customers. And I feel like you can get that feel from my website too, about me talking about my story and talking about how I relate to the quilting world and how important everybody is to me.
You brought a different perspective to the quilting. I really enjoyed your website because
Thank
you
you.
are encouraging others in different ways
Mm-hmm.
than a lot of other shops out there. And so I feel like each of these different small businesses and companies just can bring something. You don't have to, stick with the same old all the time.
Right.
You can explore and expand your quilting through enjoying new experiences on the website and going in and visiting you. So tell us a little bit about your website. We're going to bring it up here.
Okay.
Explain to us about these different categories.
The picture behind there is one of my own designs behind the top where it says
It's
shop
really
now.
cute. Very cute.
That's one of my original designs. So that's just, something so you can get to know how bright and cheerful. And that picture is from the store itself.
Yeah, so they could get this pattern
Yep.
from the shop.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. It's called Peyton's Puddles, and that was named after my niece. So we just kind of,
nice.
every time I name something, I try to make it about something part of my family. So I want everybody to know that I did the long arming services. We have classes. You can do individual classes with me all the time.
Okay.
I just want people to feel like a one-on-one is available, because I don't think a lot of stores don't allow it. I know I have a couple of customers who come in almost once or twice a week, just asking if they're moving along in their progression properly with their quilts. So,
Nice.
and I don't mind doing that. The UFO Club, that
I love this. This was really cute and very unique.
yeah, so we started that during COVID, which is why the dates are so behind right now. It was a great way. We would get on Zoom. We would just quilt once a month on Zoom and just start working on projects that everybody needs to finish up. I borrowed it from another quilt company. I can't remember who it was, but it was just the best, most inspiring thing that I had seen. So that will be starting up again this fall, I'm going to start it in January so that everybody has time to get through their Christmas stuff. And then we'll be starting it again, and it'll be open to anybody across the country. I'm not going to hold back. So it's a great little way to get you projects done. You list them all out, and then it just like every month we pull a number and say, okay, you're working on project 6. Now you get it to wherever you feel is done. and then send a picture to me or come in the store and you'll go into a raffle.
That's so cool. I really liked that idea. And it's a great way to connect with your customers and new customers as well and get them excited about finishing.
And sometimes people just come to the point where they're like, oh my gosh, how do I finish this next step?
Right.
And so when we were on the Zooms, it was great because you'd be sitting there sewing with everybody. Again, coming out of COVID, it was a little bit difficult to get everybody to get through that. So people just wanted to get things done. So it was a great little project and way to get people connected through their sewing and their quilting without, and then, you know, they got a coupon from me to do for long arming services.
Right.
Which was
nice.
A little pick me up. And then the custom t-shirt quilts was another thing that I've done. Now I've done many customized quilts, right? So this takes you through the whole process of the t-shirt quilt making and all of that. Now I've even done to the point where we've done, one lady wanted a heart-shaped quilt. So every fabric was from her mom's clothes put together into a heart-shaped block.
Oh.
And I made 6 of them over the course of a year for her.
Yeah, that is really something what you have done and how you've taken it to, I feel like, a new level of creativity for others. And so that's what you do. You really spark that creativity in my thoughts.
And I get people to come in here and ask me, how do I get this started? Well, come on in. Yeah. Let's start. I'll help you out. If you have any questions, just give me a holler.
Yeah, and so that was the one thing I wanted to ask you is, what advice can you give us for those who are afraid to get started? And a lot of times I get customers that say, no, I can't do that. Or,
I always, a big thing that I found is everybody fears making a bag. And it's because of that little thing called a zipper. And in my store, we say, don't fear the zipper. There's nothing wrong with it. You just have to take your time. So literally taking your time, reading the directions, most projects that are out there, most patterns that are out there, you just have to maybe think a little bit differently than the way you're used to, but there is step-by-step instruction. And if you don't get it, come ask. That's right.
We have the ability to get online, email, anything that you need help with. And so that's what we're here for.
So my phone number is a cell phone number for the store. I have people who call, text, or email me all day long. And if I'm not with my family during specific family times, I will respond to them, because the difference between not getting a text back and getting a text back is sometimes the difference between getting a customer to come back into the store or whatever. So my customers know they can reach me, and as soon as it's within a reasonable time, I will respond.
That's really important. I take my phone home too, and I'm answering emails over the weekend because I really want you to know that I care and that I appreciate you taking the time to email.
Yes, and I think that people, it's easier than walking in on Monday, or in my case on Tuesday, trying to catch up on 25 emails when you could just take care of it in 2 minutes.
What is your favorite part of quilting? Do you have a favorite part, or maybe a couple? Yeah.
The people.
Yes, you're right. The people are inspiring.
Every person, every quilter that comes in, I call my store that, like, a lot of people call it the sanctuary. They walk into my store and they want to be with other quilters. So I always want them to feel open and welcome. So if it's a difference between, I've had customers come in and just sit and just look, and I'm like, that's fine. Whatever you need to do, feel free. You're comfortable. As long as you're comfortable, I'm comfortable. The people is definitely my number one. Rulers is my second thing.
Okay. I love ruler work too. So any tips that we should try for ruler work?
Getting a block trimmed.
Okay.
It's just so awesome. And people don't realize that trimming those extra 3 threads off makes a big difference.
Oh God, it does.
That's a huge thing. That's something that I definitely promote. I talk about squaring up blocks a lot in our classroom. I had one teacher that I had taken years ago said there's no right or wrong quilt. All quilts, all colors work well in nature. So just, you know, just because your eye doesn't see the same colors as mine doesn't mean it's wrong.
That's right. Yes. Do what you like.
That's right.
Don't let
That's
anybody
right.
dictate how you should quilt or the colors that you want to put in your quilt. I
Correct.
just am a real proponent of that as well. Do you have a favorite quilt that you've ever made or designed?
My favorite probably is Peyton's Puddles. I've redesigned that once because I made it originally with no borders. My niece at the time was 6 months old, and now
Oh,
she's
wow.
5. So that one, you know, my original one that was up here is still in the store.
Nice.
And so I've redone the black and white version was my original. And then the colorful one I made because I had too much of one fabric sitting in the store.
Where do you get your inspiration for your designs for quilts? Or do you just sit down at the computer and start designing?
I see something, it pops in my head, and then I have to figure out how to do it. And so a lot of times, like a couple of bags I've got all these ideas in my head. I just can't get them written down fast enough.
Leave us with maybe one of your best tips, or maybe a couple of them, or advice to become a more successful quilter or squaring up, just whatever you want to leave us with.
I would say squaring up is definitely the most important thing when you're putting your quilts together. But if your blocks aren't the right size, find the size that works. So if your block isn't 9 inches and it's supposed to be, and it's supposed to go down to 8 7/8 because that's where your block is supposed to be, that's where your seam allowance allowed it, it's okay.
Yep, it is.
There's nothing wrong with it. Your quilt will be, you know, overall it'll be a little bit smaller, but there's no right or wrong. Just because the designer said that it's going to be 56 by 56 and yours comes out 54 by 54, there's nothing wrong with it. So you can always add another border.
Yeah, keep that seam allowance the same though. It's
Definitely.
really key too. Thank you so much. And everybody go to the website. It's sadiesquilts.com and just enjoy looking around and seeing and beautiful fabrics. So we want to inspire you to explore a lot more, and we're going to have Nicole back because I have a feeling she's got a lot she can teach us. So thank you so very much.
Thank you.
We want to hear from you, so please stay in touch. We'll see you next time. We'll take care. Bye-bye.